This past week was easily the biggest DVD release of the year, I think. One of them. That's why it took so long for me to get this up. Had to finish watching these movies. We had a bunch of major movies come out, two of them being among the biggest movies of the year. We have New Moon, The Blind Side, Fantastic Mr. Fox, The Men Who Stare at Goats, Brothers, and Redcliffe. So yeah, busy. First, let's take care of some of the smaller movies. Let's start with Brothers. This drama stars Tobey Maguire and Jake Gyllenhaal as loving but very different brothers. It ends up being a pretty standard broken family movie. I'll be on the Maguire gives an awesome performance bandwagon for sure. He really does an amazing job. Natalie Portman and Jake Gyllenhaal do well, but the only real problem here is how blunt the characters seem to be with their problems. There's no subtlety here. They blurt out insults at the dinner table, candidly bear out their frustrations, and it doesn't seem very realistic. It's a bit too overly dramatic for my tastes. But in the end, it doesn't go for the obvious ending and actually leaves it a bit open, and I like that. It's a solid movie. Alright, now we have The Fantastic Mr. Fox, Wes Anderson's new movie. I love certain scenes and lines in this movie, but they always seem to be countered by the general lack of excitement I felt while watching it. Let's face it, Wes Anderson is dry quirk piled upon more dry quirk with very meticulously directed scenes. It takes a certain type of person to appreciate that. This movie is great to look at, but in the end, it's just too dry for me and too unappetizing for children, the presumed target audience, I think. Critics were hailing this as better than Pixar's Up, and frankly, I think that's bullshit. It's not a bad movie, but it's not something I'd ever watch again. In the end, I'm just not a big Wes Anderson fan, and, it's not for me. John Woo's Redcliffe, however, really stuck with me long after I finished. For a 5-hour Chinese epic, it felt startlingly brisk. The characters are fantastic, the action breathtakingly directed, and the scale just massive. I was really impressed. Now, I didn't see the American theatrical abridged version. I saw the entire goddamn thing in the full length. I'd suggest you do too. It's available in a 2-disc set for rental. Part 1 and Part 2. I definitely would put this as a whole in my top 10 of the year. Probably ahead of Up in the Air, but before Harry Potter. It's not a movie for everyone. There's only really 3 or 4 major battle sequences, but anybody interested in ancient history or those few battle sequences to be absolutely epic, definitely check this one out. Men Who Stare at Goats. This movie's like a double cheeseburger, I guess. It's bland, but somehow manages to taste good enough to warrant buying it. Well, rental in this case, but it isn't anything special. The cast is good, but it feels like it's trying too hard to emulate the Coen brothers, especially Big Lebowski and Burn After Reading. It's a pretty decent attempt, but just doesn't completely work. I think the real problem is the fact that the film treats the psychic spies without any kind of ambiguity. They can actually do this shit, and I kind of didn't like that approach at all. I was hoping for a the joke's on you aspect, and the film never delivered on it. In general, it's just all around averageness. Now, the 2 big boys. We'll start with the pretty lame one, Twilight Saga New Moon. Now, I know this has its massive legion of fans, but it's really just a soap opera with a couple moments of action that really don't come across as being exhilarating. The actors are really bad. The plot is still a bastardization of ancient myths just to form a teenage girl's wet dream. And to top that off, it's over 2 hours long. It's almost 2.5 hours. Now, I can give it credit for introducing the werewolves and the Volturi because it starts to feel a little bit more like a real vampire movie. But then the matter-of-fact dialogue comes in and just ruins it. It's not a very good movie, but it does have its moments. I can really only recommend it for fans of this series, though, who have undoubtedly already seen it by now. Finally, The Blind Side. This was a surprising movie. Back when it was in theaters, and now that it's out on DVD, it isn't perfect, but it's a damn good sports movie. It tends to try to do too much, but Sandra Bullock ends up rising above that and does a really good job here. Maybe not Best Actress worthy, but nevertheless does a really good job. I've heard people say that it has kind of racist undertones, but the film does address this fairly explicitly. And it never gets too heavy with the themes. It's PG-13, but it doesn't feel nearly as heavy as some of the PG-rated sports movies I've seen, like Glory Road. Blindside has a heart, a solid story, and solid writing. I don't think it's a fantastic movie, but it's good all the way through. I say give it a go.